Alright, hey, welcome. So I'm redoing this one because my last one had an issue with the upload, and I feel like I could be a little bit more concise with the way that I speak in these videos. So here's my getting started with Codewars video. First thing you should note about Codewars is that when you are searching up new problems, there's a few search parameters you should put in here. Obviously, you want to put your difficulty, 8 being the easiest, 1 being the hardest. Start off on the 8s and then see where you go from there. Progress. Codewars will keep track of the kata that you have trained in, whether you have completed them or not. So if you start on a problem and you are unable to finish it, it will keep track of that. So just keep that in mind. When you're starting, this doesn't really matter. You haven't completed any. But let's say you want to go back into ones that you want to finish later on. You will have to you'll have to choose one of these. And lastly, sort by. Because these are user written, the directions will not always be phenomenal. So what you should do, and what I like to do, I sort them by popularity or positive feedback, because the ones that are the clearest in their directions will always be popular. They'll always have positive feedback. Just keep that in mind. I've wasted a decent amount of time on these problems because the directions have been unclear, and then later I look and other users are mentioning that the directions are unclear too. So just keep that filter in mind. The popularity, positive feedback. But anyways, we are going to start with this one, abbreviate a 2-word name. So I've trained in a decent amount of these. I'm just kind of going back, working through my solutions, providing you with my thought process. Might not always be the best thought process, but it's just another opinion, another way to look at it. And I used to be in teaching. I feel like I'm somewhat decent at talking through my thought process and explaining how I solve problems. First of all, you will need, well, you don't need this, but I find it very helpful. I set up an index.html file and I link the script tag at the bottom so that when I do these problems, I can solve them on the live server. So get your index.html, link that script tag, and then work within the JavaScript file in VS Code or whatever IDE you want to use. So I got them linked up. Can close this. I can right click index.html, open with live server. I will click on this, hit F12, or you can right click and you can inspect either way. I like doing F12. It will pull up the console, which is where I like to solve these problems. So let's test it out. Console.log. Let's give us a hello, hit save. And I see the hello, so I know that we are linked up properly. Let's close this out. Let's grab our problem. Copy. Paste. I'm going to give you the way that I like to solve these. You don't have to do them exactly the way that I do them, obviously. It's just the way that I found most efficient for myself. So what I like to do, a lot of these, they'll give you the function and, an argument or two. What I'll do is I'll provide the argument or the whatever element that's going into the function up top. So let's do let name equals, and I'm going to use one of these. Let's do this Patrick. Okay, Patrick. So this function is going to take name, which is Patrick Feeney, and it is going to, we're going to be working with that in this function specifically. However, this won't work yet because we're not console logging anything. So console.log, abbreviation name with the name argument. Don't forget to put that in there. Otherwise it won't run correctly. And let's take a look at these directions. So write a function to convert a name into initials. This kata strictly takes two words with one space in between them. The output should be two capital letters with a dot separating them, and it should look like this. Okay, Sam Harris becomes S.H. Patrick Feeney becomes P.F. So one thing that I noticed in the language, it says, where was that portion? It takes two words with one space between them. Based on the JavaScript built-in methods, I'm already thinking, okay, I'm going to use the split method to split these at the space in between them so that I can work on them individually. And I will explain further what I mean by that. But that's just sort of the way that I'm thinking at the moment. Also, I would recommend, if you have not done so yet and you are just starting off in Codewars, I would really advise you to take a couple hours or take a day, however long you need, and really study those JavaScript built-in methods, because that will give you a larger toolbox and it will give you some starting ideas as to how you can go about solving these. Okay, so first things first, here's what I notice. Patrick Feeney, all lowercase. We need uppercase. Now remember, I'm not going to always solve these in the most efficient way or the shortest way. I'm going to do it in the way that I thought of it initially and the way that I feel like breaks the problem down for those that are just starting out doing these. And in ways that kind of help me, see them in a broken down, thought out process. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to deal with the lowercase. So I'm going to make a new variable. I'm going to name it upper. And I'm going to take our name argument, which is Patrick Feeney. I'm going to use the built-in method to uppercase. And I'm going to save it. And notice I get nothing because every function needs a return. So return upper. Let's see what we got. Patrick Feeney. Okay. Cool. So I took the name, took that argument, put it all in uppercase. But we're not done yet because we need it to look something like this, P.F. So, as I stated previously, I'm going to use the split method. Let's make another variable. Let array equals upper dot split. We're going to split it at the space because there's a space in between these two. So that's where we're going to split these. And let's do another return and see what we get. Okay, cool. We have our string now split into an array of strings. It has two elements, and if you open it up, you look at this, you notice how and you've probably heard this a lot of times if you've been watching JavaScript videos and dealing with arrays. Arrays start their counter at 0. So just keep that in mind when you are dealing with arrays. That first index or that first item is going to be count 0. So Patrick is 0 and then Feeney is 1, as opposed to Patrick being number 1 and Feeney being number 2. Arrays always start at 0. And if you open it up, you can see the counter right here. 0, Patrick. 1, Feeney. Just keep that in mind. We're also going to be using that in my solution too. So, right, we have an array. Now we're going to work with this array, and we need to pull out the first letter of each of these indexes or these items in the array. So So let's just start with that. Let's just do a return. Let's return. The way that I'm thinking this might be easiest is if we use template literals. So with template literals, you get 2 backticks. And to access any variable or any item that is changing and not just like static text, you're going to use the $ and the curly braces. So let's do array, and I'm going to access this first element right here, this first index, Patrick. So let's do array, which is the 2 strings, but we're going to do array index 0. Okay, so we just got Patrick, but we need that first initial of Patrick. We need that P. So you can go into that index or this element of the array, and you can access it one more time by just throwing another bracket. And it works the same way. It starts at 0. So this P is going to be item or index 0. This A will be 1. I can show you what I mean. So if I do 0, we got a P, right? If I did 1, we get the A of Patrick. We get the 2, we get the T of Patrick. You kind of get where I'm going here. So index 1 or index 0 of the array, Patrick, and then index 0 of Patrick, P. Now, with the template literals, you can add in any text that you'd like in between these elements that are with the $ and the brackets. So if I could just throw in a period right there with P dot. If I add in multiple ones, P dot dot dot, P dot dot dot, hello. Okay, but we only need one right now. So P dot. Okay, for when we're dealing with this, we need the second index of the array. We need that Feeney now. So same concept. I'm going to get that $ in the bracket. I'm going to access the array, which is just Patrick Feeney split into 2 elements. I'm going to access that array, but instead of accessing element 0, I'm going to access the next one in the counter. I'm going to access 1. So when I hit save, I get P and the dot, still the dot here, Feeney. But we don't want P Feeney. We want it to look P.F. We just want the initials of this person. So P element or index 0 of Feeney. And there we go, P.F. You could see that if I put another one here, I could put another dot in there, kind of format the initials how I want. But the way that Codewars wants it, they want it P.F. P.F. Okay, and as you can see, if I go through this second element in the array, this word Feeney, if I do element, I keep saying element index 1, it would be the E of Feeney. If I did 2, it would be the second E of Feeney. If I did 3, it would be the N of Feeney. But we want that first element because we're just getting the initials, P.F. Okay, let's take this, copy this function, paste it in here, hit Control S to test, which only runs a few of the tests, and then the attempt runs all of the tests. But quick little shortcut, you can hit Control S or Command S on Mac, hit save, it'll run a few of the tests. Looks like we're good. Okay, so we're going to run the rest of the tests with the attempt. Let's see. And we are all good. It works. And as you can see, you got the tests down here. So these are this is how Codewars is testing your code. It's taking this is the input, and then that is the output right there. So you can see that it's running these strings through, and it's looking for these outputs afterwards. All right, that's all for right now, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.